with President Trump now calling for impeachment of judges who disagree with him, Chief Justice John Roberts weighs in. The president directed more anger at federal judges this week as a judge in D.C. ordered the Justice Department to turn over information about weekend deportation flights to El Salvador. The judge put those flights on hold, and now the president says that that judge should be impeached. Now, Chief Justice John Roberts didn't mention the president by name, but in a statement, he said impeaching judges over legal disagreements is, quote, not an appropriate response. President Trump appears to be unfazed by those words.
Well, he didn't mention my name in the statement. I just saw it quickly. He didn't mention my name, but many people have called for his impeachment, the impeachment of this judge. We had a judge, I would call him a rogue judge. You can call him whatever you want. I know nothing about him. That's not for a local judge to be making that determination. And I thought it was terrible.
Joining me now to talk about this, Joan Biskupic, CNN Chief Supreme Court Analyst. Joan, I love talking to you about this because you've actually written about Chief Justice Roberts, his biography. First, how significant is this, given what you know about him even personally?
It's significant in the moment for him and for the judiciary most of all. Several lower court judges who right now are the front lines of these battles over the Trump litigation have been feeling a lot of pressure, and they've been getting threats, and they've just been.
And we've seen reports about the judiciary and judges feeling public threats very acutely.
Yes, and so many of them had been reaching out to the chief's office, to other people saying, you know, maybe it's time to say something. And so this was a moment for them in many ways. What
Did
the
they
chief
get
said,
the moment? I mean, this statement doesn't seem very fiery.
The statement isn't fiery, but this isn't the chief's way. The Chief Justice really does speak in measured tones, and he wanted to say something. And basically what he said was, if you were dissatisfied, go through an appeal here. You do not need to threaten impeachment, and impeachment is rarely used, just a handful of times in the history of our country. And only after someone's been, found guilty of some criminal behavior. So it was significant in that way. The other thing, though, is, just so you know for context, there's only been one other time that Chief Justice John Roberts, as head of the judiciary, has essentially rebuked the head of the executive branch, and that was in 2018, and it was at a similarly politically charged moment.
Oh, so, yeah, I think we actually have that. He released a statement.
Yeah.
This is after a 2018 judgment. Let me see. It said, yeah, we don't have Obama judges or Trump judges, Bush judges, Clinton judges. In this era, though, I think at the time people thought everything is too partisan now, so that's kind of moved.
And you know what he was responding to? Interestingly, there's a connection between the two. He was responding to Donald Trump deriding jurists who had ruled against him in an asylum case as, quote, an Obama judge. And did you notice the thing on Truth Social yesterday that first set off the chief? Also, Donald Trump was referring to James Boasberg, the judge handling the deportation case, as an Obama judge. So, it's
a little bit of a trigger there.
Yeah.
Well, can I get to the backdrop to this, which is the immunity case? We've been talking all day about the boundaries, right, and the checks and balances. And this immunity case, people thought really undermined some of that.
Yeah, and the chief wrote it. I mean, it was a 6-3 ruling along ideological lines, very politically charged. That said that Donald Trump, that the president has substantial immunity from criminal prosecution for acts that he would have committed
in office.
Or in this case, it was as he was exiting. It was from the 2020 election. So Donald Trump, as a former president at that point, was trying to be shielded from the charges brought by then special counsel Jack Smith. So that ruling back on July 1st essentially gave Donald Trump, then candidate Trump, a pass for any kind of prosecution. And the backlash to the chief especially has been very strong. And I think that the chief really has felt stung by that. And since then, as the court has heard a lot, the preliminary stages of some of the Trump litigation, it has moved very cautiously and not given Donald Trump what he's wanted. Donald Trump's lawyers have gone there trying to have, with a sense of urgency, trying to get court endorsement for some of its early executive orders, and the court has backed away and slowed things down. So you have a different message coming now than you had back in July, and that is truly, I think, for the chief who is very concerned about the court's place in the public eye, for his own reputation and image, that, again, I think the backlash from the immunity ruling really stung. And this, I felt he's only the 17th Chief Justice of the United States. Donald Trump is the 47th president. So, chiefs stay for life.
Yeah.
He stays for life.
Yeah, and so these big questions are settled by personalities in the end. Joan Biskupic, CNN's chief Supreme Court analyst, thanks so much.
This is unusual. A rare rebuke from the Supreme Court Chief Justice to the President of the United States. But this morning, President Trump is doubling down on his attack on the federal judge that led to this criticism. It all centers around the legal battle over the Trump administration's flights deporting hundreds of accused gang members. Trump called the judge who ruled against those flights crooked and said he should be impeached. That prompted an extraordinary statement from Chief Justice John Roberts, writing, "For more than 2 centuries, it has been established that impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreement concerning a judicial decision. The normal appellate review process exists for that purpose." But the president last night denying he defied the judge's orders to turn those deportation planes around, even as questions remain about the timing of those flights.
Going forward,
I had judges
would
that
you
were
defy
so
a court
corrupt.
order? Because we all know that, and that was
I
outrageous.
never did defy a court order.
And you wouldn't in the future.
No, you can't do that. However, we have bad judges. We have very bad judges, and these are judges that shouldn't be allowed. I think at a certain point you have to start looking at what do you do when you have a rogue judge.
Joining me now, Zolan Kanter-Youngs, our CNN political analyst and White House correspondent for the New York Times. Thank you so much for coming on. Zolan, how rare is it for a justice, any justice, excluding even the Chief Justice role, to scold someone, not by name, but clearly he is pointing this at the president?
It's very rare. This is a very rare rebuke from the Chief Justice. And in this case, you didn't have him coming out and taking a side in this ongoing court battle between the executive branch and the judiciary, but more so explaining that if an administration does disagree with a judicial decision, then there's a process for that. You have the appeals process. And just the fact that we saw this kind of comment, essentially saying to knock it off here with these calls for impeachment, which really has been an all-out full court press here, not just from the White House, but other Republican allies as well. What this really is a signal of is just that this case has become a flashpoint for seemingly a larger tension here between a White House consolidating power in the executive branch, moving forward with aggressive executive actions, and a judiciary and federal judges that are increasingly seeking to curb their power. Legal experts are looking at this case and increasingly worried that the administration is coming close, if not yet there already, but coming close to openly defying a court order. And again, just to step back, we're talking about a case here where this federal judge in D.C. actually hasn't issued a permanent injunction when it comes to these deportation flights. It's essentially a temporary injunction and, at this stage, a fact-finding mission to assess whether the administration violated a court order. And even there, you're seeing the Trump administration stonewall that fact-searching mission, as well as launch this sort of broad-based verbal assault on this judge.